Now, if you thought that the Chicago State University issue would simplify what appears to be the fairly complicated matter of the authenticity of President Tinubu's certificate and academic records, well, think again, because that rather murky world just got even murkier following the court-ordered release of those documents, with the two sides claiming victory. Atiku Abubakar and the PDP insisting that President Tinubu is guilty of perjury in his submissions to the Electoral Commission INEC, and aiming to back that up with evidence from the Chicago State University, and hoping that such evidence will be admitted by the Nigerian Supreme Court. And President Tinubu and his APC party, who see it all as baseless, a sort of last throw of the dice from a man whose political career is at an end, insisting that the release of Mr. Tinubu's documents has vindicated their position. To which the PDP retorts that it remains convinced that Mr. Tinubu submitted forged documents to the Electoral Commission INEC. So what conclusions can we draw from all this? Well, let's figuratively cross the Mason-Dixon line to the other side of the political divide and speak to the lawyer and National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Felix Morka, who joins me from our studios in Lagos. Felix, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us. We appreciate it very much indeed. First of all, what's your reaction to the depositions? Yeah, thank you for joining us. What's your reaction to the depositions in the US and to the interpretation given to what's emerged by the PDP? And Sita Chidoka was here speaking about it earlier. I don't know if you heard it.
So much for having me tonight. The outcome of the process in the United States with regards to this matter is just exactly what we imagined, what we had known all along, which is that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was a student of the Chicago State University, partook in the full course of program and graduated from that school with honors. Now, the depositions, by the registrar in the U.S. attests completely to this position, quite contrary to the original case that Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the PDP, brought to the U.S., to the court on this matter in search of facts and information that actually do not exist. So we are very delighted at the outcome because it vindicates completely the person of the president, which is his position from all along. Now, I listened to Chidoka, who made a lot of statements. Look, I sympathize with him. He's not a lawyer, and as a former minister, I expected a whole lot more from him. He shouldn't descend to that level where he begins to, make up things and tell stories that don't exist just to make a political point. I think Atiku Abubakar's political career has come to a standstill. The sun has set on his career, and I think that he needs to realize it. He served this country as vice president and held other positions. That is, enough for any individual, in this country who is politically active. I think that, I appreciate his service, but he needs to rest. He needs to rest this matter. There's nothing out of Chicago State University that even begins to suggest that this president as a student and now as president did anything that is, questionable, or that, puts into question his claim to, having graduated from the CSU. All of the interpretation you listened to earlier from Chidoka, I think is just mere talk. People who just, have nothing else to do.
Right. Well, let me come in there, Barrister Morka, because according to the deposition of the registrar of the university in Chicago. He said they did not recognize the certificate that was submitted to INEC by President Tinubu. In other words, the implication of that, according to the PDP, is that that document was forged. What is your reaction to that?
No, that's not even remotely to be ascribed to that registrar in his deposition. He made clear, he says that certificates are ceremonial documents. They're not documents that the school itself even routinely issues, let alone that which was issued, many decades ago. He said that typically the school does not concern itself with certificates because they're ceremonial. As a matter of fact, in many situations, many schools in the United States, certificates are issued by third parties, not by the university. And he made that very clear, that if you lose your certificate issued to you at the time of graduation, you are welcome to return to third parties to actually get a replacement. Look, I'm an alumnus of the Harvard Law School. I bet that if I go back to get a fresh certificate from the school, I have no way of telling whether I'm going to get a certificate that's the exact replica of that which was issued to me at the time of my graduation. Because this is something that is done, printed in that moment. And designs of certificates can change and do change. Now, I think what is important here, Charles, is that the school, CSU, under oath, at that deposition, made clear. They said, fact, one, Tinubu, President Bola Tinubu or Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a male and was their student. That was verified. And that individual attended the course of study at the school and graduated at the school, and therefore has transcripts that is the real evidence of academic record. That is, the record is not a certificate. But look, the point is that those who want to make a fuss about this, who want to continue to beat this, empty drum, will do so irrespective. The deposition of the registrar of CSU was final on this matter. He confirmed that, the current president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was a student and a graduate of the school. And by the way, neither Atiku nor anyone else at the tribunal actually filed any copies of the so-called certificate. Now, in law, if you want to prove that a document is a forgery, you must produce the original. You must produce that which you allege is the authentic document. It's not enough to just dismiss whatever I submit to you and say it is fake. You must bring into evidence in a court of law,
right. Well,
that document
in fairness,
anyone can see and say, in comparison, this is actually
right.
the authentic copy.
You certainly
and whatever
have
was submitted was fake.
Yeah, you have a point there. You have a point. But in fairness to the PDP, they have a deposition on oath from the registrar of the university saying he does not recognize as the property or having anything to do with Chicago State University the document that President Tinubu submitted. And it raises the question, Barrister Morka, if it's as straightforward as you suggest that it is, why did President Tinubu's lawyers try to prevent the documents from being released in the first place?
Charles, President Tinubu is the president of the Federal Republic. But more importantly, he is also a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Every right that I have, that you have, this man who is our president also has those rights. And in particular, in the United States, there is a statutory provision or law that protects the privacy of academic records of students who attend school. Now, at the end of this show, it won't surprise me to open my phone and see a record, somebody completely transmogrifying the conversation we're having right now to suggest that I said something that I didn't say. Now, imagine if everyone under the face of the sun had the liberty to approach CSU or any school attended by the president to obtain his documents and his records at will. Now, by the next day, his transcripts could be all over the internet with information that has nothing to do with the original document that was obtained from the school. In any event, you don't interrogate a citizen and ask him, why are you, protecting your fundamental human rights? He has a right to privacy as established under the laws of the United States. Now, don't forget, some of the presidents in recent memory of the United States similarly resisted attempts by the opposing political parties to unveil their academic records. You think they're doing that because they didn't go to school or because they forged certificates? No, they do that because, listen, why are you looking for my record? You are entitled to information that I provide to you. If I decide that you need that information, I'll give it to you. Atiku Abubakar is not deserving of, Bola Ahmed Tinubu's academic record. Himself, I don't know where he went to school.
Right.
I don't know whether his transcript is also, in the public space.
Right.
But I think that it's just wrong that because this is the president, therefore, he must unveil his record.
To be entirely fair, Felix, we both know, and I completely concede the point that you're making about the president having his rights and his right to privacy. But as president of Nigeria, he also has a responsibility to the people of Nigeria to be as transparent as possible. And that is the issue here. In those circumstances, I'm wondering how you think the Supreme Court, because you're a lawyer, so you've got that advantage. Obviously, we're not trying to get you to prejudge what the Supreme Court will do, but the letter of the law says very clearly that forgery makes you ineligible to be president. Will it be up to the Supreme Court to rule on whether it is forgery based on carelessness and therefore excusable, or forgery based on the intent to deceive?
Charles, now to be clear, there is absolutely no basis to suggest forgery in this matter. Nothing was forged. This president attended CSU. That, I think, is being put to rest. And by the way, let me remind you, at the tribunal, the issue that Atiku Abubakar presented to the tribunal was a case that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not attend the CSU. The issue of certificate was not presented. That was not an issue that was litigated at the tribunal. It was simply saying, look, this man did not attend CSU. And I think on that question, the depositions we all have witnessed has put that to rest, irredeemably. Now, on the question of forgery, what is a forgery? How can you forge a document where you have not and are not able to produce what you say is the authentic record? Against what document do you then compare that which was presented and what you suggest would be or supposed to be the authentic document? By what means do you do that? You see, look, there's nothing for the Supreme Court to consider. Whatever Atiku Abubakar may wish to present to the Supreme Court, I wish him Godspeed, because it is simply another exercise in futility. He's simply going to present nothing to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will consider the merits of the appeal on the basis of the decision rendered by the tribunal in this matter. That's the Court of Appeal. That's it. And by the way, the Supreme Court is a court of appeal. It's not a court of first instance. It's not a court of trial. So there's no way, there's no legal facility by which Atiku will bring forward any documents from the US to the Supreme Court to relitigate a case which a valid judgment had been given, and on which the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court is only called upon to look at the record of the tribunal, whether or not that court erred in law on any aspect of the decision that it gave. we are not concerned because we are absolutely confident. This president was a student, confirmed. And the issue of certificate was never discussed at the tribunal. I don't see how that, becomes a relevant point to canvass before the Supreme Court.
On that note,
not at all.
Barrister Felix Morka, let me just make the point once again that the PDP are saying that they have on oath from the registrar of the university that he does not recognize the certificate that was submitted by President Tinubu to INEC, and that's the basis on which they're going to put their challenge forward. But unfortunately, we've actually run out of time, but it's always a real pleasure talking with you, and I really hope you will come back. Let's expand on this when we've got more time. Thank you very much indeed. Felix Morka is a barrister at law and the National Publicity Secretary of the APC, and he was talking to me there from Lagos.